Welcome to this week's edition of Ask an MS Expert. I'm John Strum, and I'm the host of the Real Talk MS podcast. Each week, Real Talk MS reaches thousands of people in more than 90 countries around the world with the news that people affected by MS need to know. I'm also a non-scientist member of the International Progressive MS Alliance Scientific Steering Committee. I'm a district activist leader and trustee for the National MS Society, and I chair the Society's California Government Relations Advisory Committee. My wife, Jean, lived with progressive MS for 23 years, so I've had a front row seat experiencing all the ways that MS can impact a family. I'm thrilled to be with you today. I see that people are continuing to join our webcast, so let's give them just another few seconds and then we'll get started. Thank you to all of you who are joining us on GoToWebinar, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. The MS Society's Ask an MS Expert webcast is designed to connect you with MS experts who are ready to answer your questions on the topics that impact people affected by MS every day. So as I chat with our expert today, please feel free to post your questions on Facebook and YouTube, or type them into the question box if you're joining us on GoToWebinar. We'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can during the Q&A portion of today's program. The holiday season can be especially stressful for people living with multiple sclerosis, juggling all the usual holiday expectations of gift buying, cooking, and entertaining, on top of the reality of living with an unpredictable disease. And if COVID-19 is increasing in your community, you may be feeling additional stress or maybe worrying about you or your loved one's health. You may feel stressed, sad, anxious, all because your holiday plans may look different during the COVID-19 pandemic. So our discussion today will be on practical tips that can help minimize the stress that accompanies the holidays. And we'll also share some upcoming programs and resources that you can tap into. Joining us today is Megan Weigel. Megan is a nurse practitioner specializing in neurological care in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Megan brings a unique integrative medicine and holistic nursing perspective to her practice, First Coast Integrative Medicine. She's been a nurse practitioner for over 20 years and an MS certified nurse since 2005. Megan is also a board-certified advanced practice holistic nurse, and I'm delighted to have her with us today. Welcome, and thanks for being with us today, Megan.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.
Before we dive right into our conversation, could you explain what integrative medicine is and how it benefits people living with MS?
Absolutely. So integrative medicine is really a combination of conventional medicine, evidence-based conventional medicine, and evidence-based holistic medicine that takes into account the whole person, the physical being, the psychological and spiritual being, the financial needs of the patient, the medical needs of the patient, the spiritual needs of the patient. And I really love practicing what I practice this way because I still practice conventional medicine. It's just that I may also bring in a lot of other tools that I didn't have time for in the conventional clinic.
Well, today we're talking about holiday stress. So could you share some of the more common reasons you've seen that make the holidays particularly stressful for so many people?
Yeah, so I was listening to your introduction, and I think you touched on all of them, right? Whether or not we have a busy schedule, if a person lives with MS, they're also living with just having enough energy to do the things that they need to do during the day a good bit of the time. And then we throw in the pressure of the holidays and doing all the things. Like we have all these family traditions that are decades long, and some of them may not mean anything to me or us anymore, but it'll hurt grandma's feelings if we don't do them. And we may not even eat the cookies, but we're going to make 6 dozen of each kind because that's what we've been doing since we were 5 years old. And Aunt Kathy wraps the presents prettier than I do, so I'm going to try to wrap the presents prettier than she does, etc. And then we have, all of this food in front of us, and we're told not to gain weight during the holidays. you just pile on a lot of different stressors, and then we throw in what I said earlier was holidays 2020, which means many of us look forward to being with friends and family and having these gatherings and just really being able to let loose around the holidays. And there are a lot of constraints around that right now.
I've noticed that very often people don't necessarily realize how stressed out they are in that moment. They tend to see it in their rear view mirror, and they think about an experience or a moment and say, wow, I was really feeling stressed out. So how does someone go about recognizing that they are stressed? What are some of those common signs they can look for?
I like to do a body scan. For many people, stress doesn't show up as a thought. Like the last thing you think of is, oh, I'm stressed, right? Stress can have a lot of physical characteristics, and it might be a tension headache, from walking around like this all the time. It might be neck and shoulder discomfort because you're walking around like this all the time. For some people, it's lower back pain. For some people, it's GI issues like getting constipated or having belly pain, feeling nauseous. For some people, it's lightheadedness. And I don't mean to discount chest pain here, because chest pain can be real, but some people actually have chest discomfort or heartburn when they're stressed. So if you're not quite feeling in your brain that anxiety signal showing up, I encourage people to just take a quick scan of their bodies and see what feels different or off.
So what are some ways for people to identify the causes of their stress or the things that increase their stress levels?
Taking a look at those physical symptoms as they're happening. What situations are they happening in? What situations do they happen after? Also, just considering your gut feelings, right? So if you're being asked to do something and you automatically know in your head that there's no way you can squeeze it in, but you do it anyway, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure. Other things that I think are important to recognize with stress are sleep changes. So if you have a lot going on and suddenly you're waking up in the very early morning hours, that can be a sign of anxiety, even though you may not know it. So if you have added things into your life, or if you foresee things coming in the future because of the holidays, and suddenly these things are starting to happen, these changes in your body or in your physical health, your sleep schedules, even your appetite, then it's a sign that you've probably taken on too much.
So maybe we can get a little more specific in our conversation, talking about stress generally, but what about the impact of stress on multiple sclerosis? What's that about?
This is a huge one. So acute stress, which is like stress that happens quickly, like maybe you get a phone call that your child is sick at school and needs to be picked up, and your heart starts to race, and you close up everything you have to do, and you're able to concentrate and quickly get in the car and go pick up your child. We're meant to do that, right? We're put here to be able to do those things. But chronic stress over time really wears on your body, and it shifts. And you guys living with MS will be familiar with this terminology. It really shifts the T cells from anti-inflammatory to pro-inflammatory, and it creates this kind of more messy milieu in your body that does have an effect on MS. We know this from studies looking at gadolinium-enhancing lesions and chronic significant life stressors. Also, we know this from the term pseudo-relapse or pseudo-exacerbation. So stress is one of the causes of your MS symptoms acting up outside of the setting of having a new lesion or a relapse. Just like a urinary tract infection could cause your MS symptoms to act up, so can stress.
I was just about to ask you about whether stress does increase the risk of an exacerbation or symptoms flaring up. Does it have any effect on the long-term course of MS?
So there aren't studies to show that long-term stress actually affects the way your disease progresses. But long-term stress, chronic stress, this changes in the immune system and inflammation that chronic stress can create also affects your other medical conditions. So cardiovascular comorbidities like heart disease, high blood pressure, even obesity are affected by stress. And so those things also affect MS in the wrong way. So the sooner that you have one vascular condition, the more likely you are to reach an EDSS of 6 or be having to use an assistive device more often. So I personally think that the more you can do to manage your stress, the more power you have over your MS.
That's important and worth remembering. The COVID-19 pandemic has added one more very big reason for people to be stressed and worried, right? And we heard from Tammy, who said that because she has MS, her stress and anxiety have been at really high levels due to what she feels is constant fear and worry about contracting the virus. Tammy wants to know, how likely will someone with COVID-19 have severe symptoms and need to be hospitalized for treatment? So Megan, first, is someone living with MS at higher risk of contracting COVID-19? And what do we know about the chances that someone will need to be hospitalized because of the virus?
Those are really great questions. And very fortunately, early on in the pandemic, our colleagues started to gather data about people living with MS. So there's a database called CoVMS or CoVIMS, depending on where you're from, where healthcare providers can report people living with MS who have either confirmed or suspected COVID. From this database, also from our colleagues at NYU and our colleagues in Europe, we know that people living with MS are at the same. So if a person's just living with MS and is healthy without anything else, they are most likely to be at the same risk as another person just living. People living with MS who are over the age of 60, who have more severe disability and who have primary progressive disease, may be more likely to get severe COVID. And that has to do with mobility and clearing secretions and maybe also having other medical conditions. But a healthy person just living with MS is not more likely to get COVID-19. The second question, remind me that again real quick.
Oh, well,
severe COVID.
What do we know about the chances that someone with COVID-19 will need hospitalization?
Right. So most people living with COVID-19 have mild illness. And so about 1 in 6 people ends up in the hospital. And that is not people living with MS, that's a global assessment. When I looked at the statistics last night on the CDC website, they actually lump pneumonia, influenza, and COVID together when they're talking about ICU hospitalizations and deaths right now. So it's really hard to give a perfect number there, but I think it's comforting to know that most people have mild illness.
Depression is one of the most common symptoms of MS, and it also tends to run high during the holidays. Some of the symptoms of stress are very similar to symptoms of depression, and some mimic or overlap other symptoms of MS. What are the differences between stress and depression, and how would someone know if they're dealing with one or the other?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know that because stress can cause depression, but it can also cause anxiety. So anxiety, you can think of as a more heightened state of kind of mind racing, maybe agitation, for lack of a better word. But depression, the actual diagnosis, is made when a person loses interest in activities that they used to find joyful, when a person has an appetite change, either up or down, sleep changes, either up or down, feelings of hopelessness or worthlessness, clumsiness, difficulty thinking that would be different than what you were experiencing with MS if those were problems you were having, clumsiness and klutziness, and then feelings of morbidity. So either thoughts about death and dying that are just always in your mind, yourself or another person, or even suicidal ideation, or what I call intrusive thoughts, which are those things, strange thoughts that you think they just kind of come out of nowhere, but they're frightening.
So when is it time for someone to seek professional help?
I mean, I like to think at any time is time for professional help. I think most people could benefit from some mental health counseling, but from the standpoint of a medical diagnosis and severity, a medical diagnosis of depression is made after a person's lived with at least 5 of those symptoms daily for 2 weeks or longer. That being said, anytime a person is having morbid or suicidal thoughts, it's extremely important to get help right away.
And if someone decides that they do need to seek professional help, who should they reach out to?
I thought about this for a while when I was planning, because it's difficult to get. My initial thought is, well, your doctor, right? It is so difficult to get a hold of a healthcare provider these days. You know, you call, you have that voicemail, you have to press all these buttons, and then you have to hope that someone calls you back. So I would say that it's important to talk to a support person in your life, someone that you're really close to. It's important to try to reach your healthcare provider. There are also suicide hotlines. Mental Health America has one. The NIH Center for Mental Health has one. And then the MS Society has wonderful MS navigators that can hook you up with mental health professionals in your area.
Well, I want to thank you, Megan, for sharing some very helpful insights into what we should all be aware of about stress and depression, particularly during the holiday season. Before we continue our discussion, I want to welcome those of you who have continued to join us on GoToWebinar, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Please let us know what's on your mind. Post your comments and questions on Facebook and YouTube, or type them into the questions box if you joined us on GoToWebinar. Our Ask an MS Expert live event takes place at this same time every Friday. So please help us make sure that everyone knows about it by sharing news about the webcast with your family, your friends, and on your social channels. Megan, let's talk about some techniques and strategies that can help tame stress throughout the holidays and beyond. Several folks have reached out with some of the different scenarios that they're facing. Teresa wrote that she's been living with MS for 10 years, and Teresa finds the holidays particularly stressful because everyone in her family relies on her to plan the family gatherings, do the decorating, and the cooking. She struggles with saying no because she loves making the holidays special for her family, but she knows her plate is a little too full. By the end of the holiday season, Teresa usually experiences extreme fatigue. Sometimes an exacerbation comes on and she has to miss out on the gatherings that she worked so hard to put together. This year has already been stressful for Teresa in factoring in COVID-19 and the logistics for social distancing and trying to keep everyone safe. She'd like to know if you have any advice on how she can better conserve her energy and prevent this sort of scenario from unfolding as it always does.
Absolutely. I just finished a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. But the first thing I'd ask Teresa, because it's clear that she enjoys preparing for the holidays, I'd ask her which of those things that she's doing for her family brings her the most joy, and I would do those things. So not everything, but the things that she enjoys the most out of all the things. And then I would also just point out that her family would probably much rather have her at the family gathering than down with an MS exacerbation with everything looking perfect. So I think one of the easiest things to do is just to decide what is essential. What are maybe the top 3 to 5 things that you could do preparing for the holidays that bring you joy and your family joy, but take out, all the other things that suck literal energy from people living with MS, and just do those.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to Tammy's question for a moment. Tammy expressed that she had this constant fear and worry about contracting COVID-19, because we also have now heard from Jonathan, who's facing a similar situation. He says between what he sees on the news and his close friend who's constantly sharing pessimistic thoughts about the future, Jonathan's having a hard time not constantly stressing out and worrying about his MS and about contracting COVID-19. And he wishes there was something he could do to change how he feels. Megan, do you have any advice on techniques or strategies for folks experiencing this constant stress or worry?
Absolutely. I often recommend that people limit their news time and their social media time on a daily basis. If they set, say a half hour for the news a day, a half hour for browsing social media, and don't do it before bed. Because not only does the screen affect the way we sleep, but so does the anxiety that comes from looking at all of those things. I would also ask John if he felt comfortable talking to his friend who was constantly posting things, or if that person was always reaching out to him and saying, hey, have you heard this? Have you heard that? And either unfollow him on social media or just say, hey man, thanks for thinking about me. I'm choosing to fill my mind with positive thoughts right now. I'm happy to talk to you about something else. Thanks for caring.
We always get a lot of questions about diet and exercise, and I'm wondering, how do they play into the management of stress and depression?
In a big way. So most Americans follow what's called the Standard American Diet, and the acronym for that is SAD. It's high in processed food, it's high in sugar, it's high in caffeine. For some people, it's high in alcohol, and it's low in nutrients. The other thing about those chemicals in fast food, high fat foods that aren't good fats, and sugars, is that they give us this really quick boost of dopamine. It's like a drug, and we feel good for a few minutes, a few seconds, and then we kind of crash. And guess what? This is all the kind of food that comes up around the holidays, right? It's just there at our fingertips. So it actually can feed anxiety. We have more to do. We drink more caffeine, which means we can get more anxious if you're sensitive to caffeine. So I really encourage people, while it's hard right now, to try to follow a more nutrient-rich diet that's high in plant-based foods, high in healthy fats. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy your favorite holiday foods, but you shouldn't have a plate full of cookies for every meal. That Standard American Diet also does that same thing with inflammation in the body, and that it just really makes a person feel yucky. It can cause pain, it can cause fatigue, cognitive issues. Exercise is the cheapest antidepressant that there is, and it doesn't have to be anything huge. It can just be moving your body. It can be having your support partner move your body, just to get those good neurochemicals moving that give you some energy and help you to feel better.
Connie has reached out to ask about mindfulness and meditation. She says she was diagnosed with MS last year, and her doctor mentioned that she should consider learning about mindfulness and meditation as ways to minimize the stress of being diagnosed. She wants to know how or if meditation and mindfulness are different, and if there's a right way to go about doing them.
So mindfulness is the process of being 100% present with what you're doing at that moment. For example, we're here together on this webcast, and I am not on my phone answering text messages, because that wouldn't be mindful. So meditation is actually a mindful practice. And part of mindfulness means accepting what's going on at that moment without judgment. Meditation and mindfulness practices in MS have been shown to help anxiety, pain, and also some fatigue measures. So I do think they're really helpful in MS. And the best teacher I had for meditation defined it as the process of beginning again. So when a person sits down to meditate, there's a lot of pressure. It can actually cause some anxiety if you've never done it before. But, you know, sitting down, learning to slow down your breathing, feeling where your breath happens in your body. And then as thoughts come through or noises happen or you get distracted, you just simply start over. And that's the process of meditation.
So I understand you're going to lead us through a short meditation to demonstrate how it's done. Is that true?
I would be happy to. I would be happy to. Are we doing that now?
The floor is yours.
Okay. So, you know, I really, I love this meditation, and I think it's appropriate around the holidays. It's certainly appropriate during the times of COVID-19, but it's a protective meditation. So wherever you are right now, move so that you can be comfortable in your chair or on a couch, in a sofa, wherever you are. If you're lying down, get into a comfortable position. If you're sitting, feel your feet in the floor so you feel supported. If you can't feel your feet, imagine feeling your feet in the floor and imagine that someone's holding you up. Feel your sits bones in the chair. Pull your shoulders up to your ears because that feels horrible. And then just let them roll down your back and let your hands fall open on your lap. And go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to be quiet for a couple of seconds. I just want everyone to take a big inhale, as deep as they can. And then an exhale. And we'll do that one more time. Inhale through your nose. And then open your mouth and sigh. Ha. Now just find a really easy rhythm of your breath so that you don't have to think too much about it. Let your eyes fall in together and let your forehead relax. And imagine that you are building a glass house around you so that you can see out, but that nothing harmful can get in. And this clear glass house that protects you, it grows up from the ground. It comes up around you. And then it comes to a peak over your shoulders, over your head, drawing up to a roof that reaches up through the heavens. And now open the front door of your house and invite in as many people as you want who you care about. As many people as you want and wish could be with you at the holidays. Invite them into your house. Let your house expand with the people and the love. And give yourself a few more breaths to let in some more folks. And then you can close the door. And you can breathe in calmly and deeply, knowing that you are safe in this house. And the people that you love are safe in this house. Imagine regenerate the feeling that you have when you're with those people. A feeling of care, of love, of appreciation. Let that emotion fill you up inside. Breathe it in deeply. And then exhale. Exhale that feeling out to all of those people in your house. Go ahead and take one more inhale. And one more exhale. You can open the door of your house. And as your loved ones leave, tell them that they are protected and safe. Continue to feel how amazing it feels to be with all those people. And on your next inhale, breathe in, I am protected and safe. Breathe in one more time. And as you exhale, let that glass wall, let that house melt down around you. Let it melt back into the earth from which it came. And you continue to feel that amazing feeling of being with all your loved ones. And you breathe in, I am protected and safe. And you breathe in again, you are protected and safe to everyone you love and care about. And then when you're ready, you can start to move a little bit and let your eyelids come open. Reorient yourself to your surroundings and hopefully carry that with you. You can do that anytime. I do that little protective house a lot these days.
Well, I'm sure I'm not the only one who just realized the benefits of meditation. So thank you so much for that. That was remarkable.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, we've covered a lot of important information about managing stress and depression during the holidays, and I'm hoping that you'll share maybe the top 3 takeaways that you'd like our audience to keep in mind.
Sure, John. I think it's so important to choose what is important to you, to choose what is essential. And that might mean making another person happy, and that's fine. But to choose what is important to you, to say no if you need to, and to remember to breathe. Those are my 3 most important things.
Well, thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. I know your practical tips are going to help a lot of people minimize the stress that accompanies the holidays and help them enjoy the season a little bit more. Now let's continue taking more of the questions that our audience has for you. Jan wrote that her husband recently passed away, and she's having a hard time coping with her loss and handling the stress of the holidays on her own. She asks, what are some ways she can cope with this new change?
That's a hard one. I've been there, and the holidays, facing your first holiday without a close loved one is difficult. I would encourage you, Jan, to make sure that you've scheduled something meaningful to you at least once a week. And it's tough now with COVID and not being able to travel and maybe not being able to be with one another. And so if you're in a situation where you can't physically be with your loved ones or your friends, then set up a time to do FaceTime or Zoom together. And also maybe pick some really great memories that you have of your husband from the holidays and keep those going. Talk about those with other people. And I think this goes back to the mental health perspective. Depending on her husband's end of life care, if hospice was involved and she's struggling, they often offer grief counseling and groups. And some people don't want to be involved in that sort of thing, but I highly encourage it. It's very useful, and particularly getting through the holidays really could be a lifeline for her.
Peggy asked, if you're a hugger, how do you deal emotionally and mentally with not doing that during the pandemic? We've also heard from Tamara with similar questions. She said, I've always been an affectionate person, and giving hugs to my family and friends makes me feel happy and connected to them. During the upcoming holidays, I'll probably see some family and friends. What are other ways that I can be affectionate and feel emotionally connected to the people I love during the pandemic?
Oh, John, I'm a hugger, and it's been the hardest year for me because of that. But one of the things that I noticed about masks right off the bat is they force people to look each other in the eye. And I don't know if you've ever tried to look somebody in the eye for more than about 10 seconds, but it is an incredibly intimate experience. You can see emotions, you can see energy, you can see a lot in people's eyes. So just spending time, sitting with people and looking in the eye, looking them in the eye while you're talking and sharing your emotions with those people can be incredibly intimate and affectionate. The New York Times actually published an article within the past several months about how to hug safely during COVID. Which I found to be very interesting. And so hugging safely during COVID should be quick, but a 10-second hug is enough to generate those hormones that actually help a person to feel better. It should be masked. It should be faces away from one another. And when you're done, you wash your hands and socially distance. They have cute little pictures. I would encourage people to look up the article, cute little pictures of things that it's okay to do, like children hugging grandparents around the waist, a parent or an aunt or an uncle or whatever kissing a child from behind on the top of the head, hugging in safe ways. Of course, this would assume that someone, doesn't have, isn't infectious at the time. But during the holidays, the best ways to stay safe with one another are to maintain social distancing practices, make sure you're washing your hands and wiping down surfaces and wearing masks. I think we can be together safely in small groups, depending on, the bubbles. The size of the bubbles is very important. But there are definitely ways to be affectionate.
David writes, my wife has been living with MS for 12 years and for the most part has been able to cope with the ups and downs. However, this year has been particularly hard for her as she's been worried about getting COVID-19 and she experienced an MS exacerbation. David says, I've noticed a change in her mood. She's very irritable, has been extremely fatigued and disconnected from me and our family. I've expressed concern to her that I feel she might be depressed and should talk to her doctor about it, but she says nothing's wrong and doesn't want to discuss anything with her doctor. What do you do if you're concerned about a family member's mental health, but they refuse to admit anything's wrong or to seek help?
So there are two people at stake here. There's the person living with MS and there's him as a support partner. And there's only so much you can do, because putting pressure on a person and constantly being in their in their faces about, you need to see the doctor, I think you're depressed, you need to do this, that, and the other thing, is likely to push that person farther away from doing the healthy thing. So I would encourage him to just give little nuggets, things that he knows his wife loves, that he knows brings her joy, just kind of drop those off on a daily basis. Maybe it's a compliment or a positive quote or flowers or, a book, something that brings her joy, maybe setting up events, virtual events, or just getting outside for walks can be helpful. Things that might help elevate her mood, or at least might help make her present to the fact that maybe she does need a little help. But then there's also him as a support partner, and having to face that every day, and the worry that's involved with that means that he also needs to take care of himself. So he needs to be finding his own outlet for stress relief, so that he can remain a support for her.
Jennifer says she's seen conflicting studies around stress causing MS flares. And she's asking, does it actually cause MS flares or just temporary symptoms?
So I would say both. Stress can cause a pseudo relapse. So stress can cause a temporary worsening of symptoms. In particular, anxiety, memory, and pain compete for the same lane in the brain, and memory never wins. So, energy never wins. So if you have a lot of stress or anxiety, your body's also working harder to, navigate through those waters, which means many people will have MS symptoms act up. Now, in the literature, what they've looked at is MRI changes with stress. And indeed, when people are under a really significant life stressor, they see an increased gadolinium enhancing lesions and increased T2 plaques, even outside of the setting of relapse. So these could just be asymptomatic MRI changes. And what we know about those is that they matter too. So even if a relapse isn't showing up in your body, if you're having significant stress and it's associated with MRI change, then down the line, that's going to matter.
Krista asks, what are the best strategies to conserve energy if you get 8 hours of sleep and you're still feeling fatigued? Megan, besides the strategies that you've already talked about today, are there any additional things that Krista could be considering?
Yeah, so I would actually encourage Krista to check in with her primary care doctor and make sure that there aren't other medical conditions at play, like vitamin deficiencies, iron deficiencies, thyroid issues, sleep disorders. But at the end of the day, some of the things that we use to manage fatigue are simple, just in the way that we do things in the house, for example. So I don't know about you guys, but I usually look like a Tasmanian devil when I'm making lunch in the morning for my son, or when I get home from work and gathering things for dinner. And if you simply do things like gather everything up at the same time, sit down, prepare, then you're conserving energy in MS. So if Krista has ruled out all of those other medical things, she may want to consider asking her neurologist for a referral to an occupational therapist who can help her navigate those energy conservation techniques in her daily life.
Anita has a question that I think you've answered a number of different ways, but I also think that it's a good opportunity right now to kind of circle back and review some of the really great advice you've shared. Anita writes, I get anxious every year during this same time. How can I deal with the repeated anxiety so I can finally enjoy the holidays?
Gosh, I would just have to, again, ask Anita, what are the things that she enjoys most about the holidays, and concentrate on those. We put too much pressure on ourselves to do everything on a daily basis, let alone during the holidays. I'd also encourage her to make good choices about self-care during her day, and to put maybe that stuff first. So if it comes down to, I mentioned earlier, I'll just say wrapping beautiful presents that takes a long time and is kind of tedious. It takes cognitive and creative energy, and you getting 10 minutes to just sit and be still. Choose the sit and be still, because you'll be a better person for it, for everyone else.
Melissa asked, can stress make your hair fall out? She says, I've noticed my comb having more hair in it recently.
So yeah, it certainly can. There are a lot of reasons why, and there are other things that can make your hair fall out. But yes, stress can affect your hair. So can hormones, so can your thyroid, so can iron deficiencies, so can medications. So if that's something that's new for you, then I would definitely get it looked into.
Well, I want to thank all of you who have submitted your questions, and I especially want to thank you, Megan, for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, John.
You bet. Staying connected, informed, and feeling supported is an important factor in managing emotional wellness. The National MS Society partners with other nonprofit organizations to ensure access to a variety of programs and resources that can help meet the needs of people affected by MS. With the upcoming new year, we want to take a moment to highlight Can Do MS, one of the MS Society's key partners in delivering programs to help people, and I should say whole families who are living with MS, thrive. I'm delighted to have Brian Thompson, the Associate Director of Programs at Can Do MS, with us today to talk about some of the programs available for people to access now and as we head into the new year. Welcome, Brian, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, John, and thank you to the National MS Society for having us here. They're fantastic partners, and we work together on a lot of programs, so it's a privilege to be here.
Well, for those people who might not be familiar with Can Do MS, can you tell us a bit about the organization's history and what its mission is?
Absolutely. So we have a story that we're really proud of. So we were founded by a man named Jimmy Huga, who may be familiar to some of you, but he was a ski racer. And in 1964, at the Olympic Games in Innsbruck, first time an American had ever medaled in Olympic alpine skiing, really put skiing on the map. And he was an Olympic hero. But then he was experiencing symptoms, and in 1970 he was ultimately diagnosed with MS. And the prevailing medical wisdom at the time was that exercise is not good for MS, that exacerbates the disease, and that really all that he could do was stay at home, don't do any activity, and just avoid stress. And for an Olympic athlete, that was really a struggle for him. So he dedicated the rest of his life to trying to prove to the medical community that exercise is safe for people with MS, and actually caring for your whole health and your whole wellness, physical, social, emotional, cognitive, spiritual, and really taking care of your health will not only improve your MS, but will improve your whole quality of life. And so he started the Can Do MS in 1984 and brought people here to beautiful snowy Vail, Colorado, and really try to teach people what they can do within the circumstances of their disease. And for nearly 40 years, we've worked with an incredible team of educators like Megan Weigel to really try to instill positivity, to inspire empowerment and motivation. For the whole family. And I think that's one thing that makes Can Do MS really unique is Jimmy was one of the first to recognize that MS doesn't just impact the person that's diagnosed, it impacts the whole family. So we put on programs to really meet those needs. And to learn more, cando-ms.org. And again, we're really proud to work with the MS Society on a number of programs.
Well, as someone who served as an MS caregiver for a number of years, I can attest to amazing programs that are available to everyone, people affected by or people living with MS, as well as family members who are affected by MS. I know that every single year, Can Do MS offers a whole variety of outstanding programs that people affected by MS have come to rely on. Tell us about some of the programs that you're excited about that are available now, and what can we expect in 2021?
Absolutely. Thank you, John. So first, a quick plug to our last program of 2020. It's coming up on Wednesday, the 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's a coaching session on exactly what we were talking about today, managing wintertime stress, managing the wintertime blues and irritability. And we're really thinking a lot about coaching and educating people, but also how do you get the motivation, the resilience, the positive mindset to really incorporate this into your lives and make every day better. So that's our last program coming up. And again, CanDo-MS.org. So for 2021, normally we do in-person programs all over the country, but we've pivoted to a pretty exciting virtual portfolio that really allows people to connect with us week after week from the comfort and safety of their own home. And it includes some intensive programs, like a 2-day and a 3-day program where people with MS and their support partners can get one-on-one time with wonderful nurses like Megan and physical therapists and psychologists and dietitians to really build that comprehensive wellness. And then we also are starting a monthly program of shorter programs in partnership with the Society around common themes. So we like to say there's 5 opportunities each month to learn, grow, and connect with CanDo-MS. So each month on the first Wednesday of every month, we have a webinar similar to this with a multidisciplinary panel of experts. They'll provide you some great information. And then we follow that up with some workshops and some coaching. So for example, in January, our theme is diet and exercise goals, right? We're all gonna make some New Year's resolutions and we'll follow them for a little bit, but it's hard to stick to our goals and our resolutions. So the webinar will have an exercise physiologist and a nurse practitioner talking about the current recommendations for exercise and diet for people with MS. And then we'll break those off into 2 tracks. And so we'll do what we call a jumpstart program. And a jumpstart program really is a way to jumpstart your goals, thinking about resources and really practical strategies. So we'll do one on exercise and then we'll do one on diet. And once we kind of have that foundation, then we'll do some coaching around, all right, how do we stay motivated with those goals? How do we stay resilient? And how do we stay positive looking forward? So you can register once for all of our programs and all from the comfort of your own home. So we look forward to seeing people throughout the year. We look forward to partnering with CanDo-MS, and you'll see on our website that and the National MS website, those schedules are starting to come out. So hopefully, join us every week or join us for topics or themes that are important to you. And we're looking forward to a really exciting 2021 virtual, but there's a lot. We can reach more people more often. So we look forward to seeing you.
So Brian, please tell us again how people can get more information and register for these programs.
Yes, absolutely. CanDo-MS. So CanDo-MS.org has all of our schedules on there. Really easy to register. It's just name and email address and you're on. And then also NationalMSSociety.org also has all the webinars and jumpstarts on there. So,
well, thank you, Brian, for coming on, sharing information on the really worthwhile programs CanDo-MS has to offer.
Yes, thank you so much, John, and thank you to Elaine and everyone at the Society. We love being partners with everyone here. So thank you.
I think that one of the best things that anyone can do for themselves, especially during these uncertain times, is to make sure that the information they're getting is credible and reliable. So we'd like to share some resources with you, and these are resources that you can count on to be current and credible. I want to remind you that if we were unable to get to your questions today, the National MS Society's MS Navigator team is your best partner in answering your questions and connecting you to the very best information and resources. For more information and resources on managing stress, please go to the Society's website at nationalmssociety.org and search on the word stress. These are especially difficult times for so many people, and I want to make sure that you're aware that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They offer free and confidential support for people in distress, as well as suicide prevention and crisis resources for you or your loved ones. You can reach them by calling 1-800-273-TALK. That's 800-273-8255. Every week on the Real Talk MS podcast, I continue the conversation that we start here. So I hope you'll take a few minutes and give Real Talk MS a listen. You'll find the Real Talk MS podcast at realtalkms.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. With vital funding from supporters like you, the National MS Society will work to ensure that resources and programs like today's are available, and that the MS research community rebounds quickly from COVID-19, so the progress and momentum toward finding a cure continues. As you're able, please make a donation to the Society's COVID-19 Response Fund by texting the word GIVE to 68686. You'll get a link right to the MS Society's COVID-19 Response Fund webpage, and I hope you'll consider making that contribution today. You can connect with the National MS Society on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And please make sure that you're on the Society's mailing list so you'll continue to receive the latest information on MS research and information and updates on programs like this one. I'd like to thank Megan Weigel for joining us today, and I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us for your really great questions. Please remember that a recording of this webinar is going to be available for your review at the Society's website at nationalmsociety.org/MSexpert. Now I have a favor to ask each of you. Getting your feedback on today's webinar is important, so you'll see a survey pop up in a moment when we close out the webinar. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you'll see a link to that survey pinned to the comments section, and on YouTube, you'll find that link in the program description. Completing the survey makes a real difference. The information you provide helps us continuously improve, and it helps shape future programming. The survey takes just 1 minute, so I hope you'll take a minute and fill it out. On behalf of Megan Weigel and the National MS Society, I want to thank you once again for joining us. Please stay safe and make healthy choices.